This happened in Lagos, Nigeria.
Ijeaoma was a woman blessed with beauty, charm, and elegance. At just 25, she had what many could only dream of: a luxurious home in Lagos, a successful husband working with one of Nigeria's largest oil firms, and a son who brought light to her life. She appeared to have it all, but beneath the surface of her perfect life lay a story of loneliness, betrayal, and the slow unraveling of everything she held dear. Her husband, Mr. Etim, was a man of means, ambition, and influence. His career required constant travel, and while it brought them wealth and status, it also left Ijeaoma spending long months alone. At first, she coped with the solitude, dedicating herself to her son and managing their home. But over time, the absence of companionship began to weigh on her. Victor was Etim's closest friend, a charismatic man who had been part of their lives since the beginning of their marriage. He had stood as a best man at their wedding, and over the years, he remained a trusted figure in their lives. Victor was the kind of man who could light up any room, a stark contrast to Etim's reserved and focused demeanor. He started innocently enough. Whenever Etim was away, Victor often checked in on Ijeaoma and her son. He was attentive, kind, and always seemed to know when she needed help or a listening ear. To an outsider, it would have seemed like the actions of a loyal family friend. But for Ijeaoma, Victor's presence began to fill the void left by her husband. The turning point came one evening during a particularly heavy rainstorm. Victor had come over to drop off some groceries, a gesture he had made many times before. But that night, something changed. As they talked, their conversations grew deeper, more personal. They shared laughter, stories, and unspoken moments that lingered in the air like a secret. What began as harmless companionship soon turned into something much darker. Over the months that followed, Ijeaoma and Victor became entangled in an affair. It was a dangerous dance, one fueled by desire, loneliness, and the thrill of secrecy. They justified their actions with violent excuses: Etim's absence, the strain of the marriage, and the idea that no one would ever know. But secrets, no matter how carefully hidden, have a way of coming to light. Etim, unaware of what was happening, began to notice changes in his health. Minor illnesses turned into recurring infection, and a visit to the doctor revealed an alarming diagnosis: an STD. Confused and embarrassed, Etim confronted Ijeaoma, accusing her of infidelity. She denied it, shifting the blame onto him and suggesting that he might have been unfaithful during his business trips. The accusation planted seeds of distrust in their marriage, but Etim had no concrete proof to act upon. Behind closed doors, Ijeaoma and Victor's affair continued, though it was no longer without its complication. Victor began to struggle with guilt, torn between his loyalty to Etim and his feelings for Ijeaoma. Their meetings grew sporadic, filled with arguments and regret, and yet they couldn't seem to let each other go. What Ijeaoma didn't know was that Etim had begun to suspect more than just coincidence. His instincts told him something wasn't right, and he decided to take action. He hired a private investigator who uncovered the truth in devastating detail. Etim now had evidence, photographs, recordings, and testimonies that laid bare the betrayal. One quiet evening, Etim confronted Ijeaoma. This time, there was no denial, no room for lies. The evidence spoke for itself. Overwhelmed with anger and heartbreak, Etim packed his belongings and left the house, taking their son with him. He didn't say where he was going, leaving Ijeaoma in a house that now felt cold and empty. Victor, too, vanished from her life. The affair that had once felt so consuming now seemed hollow, its consequences too heavy to bear. Ijeaoma was left to grapple with the wreckage of her choices: a marriage destroyed, a family torn apart, and a life that once seemed perfect reduced to ashes. Days turned into weeks, and the silence in the house became deafening. Alone with her thoughts, Ijeaoma began to reflect on how everything had spiraled out of control. She wondered if Etim would ever forgive her, if her son would grow up resenting her, and if she would ever find redemption. But just as she began to accept her fate, something unexpected happened. A message appeared on her phone saying from an unknown number. It was brief but unsettling. "We need to talk bits bito." The story ends here, leaving a lingering question. Was this the beginning of reconciliation, or a twist that would drag her deeper into turmoil?